Yeah.
That's your
Yeah.
name.
Squirrels got me.
Big Jim.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass, and I see these deer moving, and I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the ghost, and
275
what's Tard?
pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
The Freightliner? It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
yeah.
You know?
He's like,
He's up there slapping it, pissing all over everything.
is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
That's I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to this week's show. I'm your host, Billy, and this week we're just going to kind of get Jimbo, and it looks like Dallas is on. Dallas is going to be calling in, which he's already in the queue, so I'll get him in here just a second, but we're going to shoot the breeze here tonight, just a myriad of different topics, kind of talk about the end of rifle season here in New York, how that went, and then how our muzzleloader season went. It's hard to believe that that's already come and gone, and the official late season is over, but we are looking at the holiday hunt here coming next week, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, maybe some strategy and what some of the things are we have on the docket. So if anybody that's tuned in has any questions or would like to call in and partake in the conversation, feel free to do so. You can also participate. We got a poll up here on the screen that you can vote right on your cell phone right now. I see there's some votes coming in, which is cool. I'm curious what you're seeing with your deer herd and around your property or the land that you hunt, what you're thinking, how things are going. I'm kind of still on my cautious side. I don't really quite know what the hell is going on in our neck of the woods here on the farm. I'm not feeling like we're seeing the number of deer that we should be seeing with the food and the habitat we have for them. So I'm just curious what you're seeing out there, and you can vote on the screen, and that'll be a continuing topic we have to discuss here. Big Jim says he is firing up the computer, so he'll be on in just a minute, and I'm going to promote Uncle Dallas onto here. Uncle Dallas.
What's up?
Not much. How is you?
Not too shabby. I'm on vacation, so having
Again?
a beverage with you tonight. Yep.
Robert's with you?
No, I said I'm having a beverage with you.
Oh, I thought you said Robert was with you. I was like, oh my goodness. Senior
No,
300.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm having the ass end of a bottle of vodka. Sarah's out tonight with her mom and her sister. They went to a play up in Buffalo. I think Hamilton is what they went to, up at Shays. So they allegedly, made some drinks to, put in the cooler in the car for their trip up there, and she left me with like a half a shot of vodka. So I'm rewarding myself from putting both the kids to bed by 8 o'clock with a nice little cocktail.
Nice.
What are you drinking?
V&T.
V&T. We're in the same neighborhood. Vodka tonic is what I'm rocking. Summer drink. Big Jim, what are you drinking?
Little yingy lingy.
Ooh, yin yang.
Yin yang.
Nice. You
We're
boys
tasting
whacking
good.
anything?
Huh?
Jimbo doesn't even know, Dallas. He doesn't even know.
Maybe you oughta.
Maybe next year we'll get him into the fold.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I gave Jimbo a little taste of the wandering yesterday, Dallas. We went and ventured some unnamed state land that we saw some good promise in.
Yeah, I heard Jimmy might be a bushwhacker in training.
I think so. He knows how to hit trees. That's qualification number one.
Miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I mean, it was again not the greatest conditions really for the entire muzzleloader season. Like, not great conditions for
Terrible.
getting out and hunting. Like,
Just terrible.
yeah, that's pretty much
Yeah,
the
it
easiest
was,
way to say it. It's
basically.
terrible. As Charles Barkley would say. Yeah, I hunted Monday and Tuesday. Jimbo and I both had both of those days off, and Monday, both days were gorgeous days. It's just that the ground was just not good for getting out and walking in the woods and still hunting. We had a little bit of snow, but it was just incredibly loud and crunchy. And
I think the full moon had the activity on its own pretty well shut down too.
That's a good point. Yeah, that full moon did hit. What was it? Was it Friday night, Saturday? What one was the actual full moon?
I don't know when it was, but it was definitely bright just about every night from like Thursday to Monday, Tuesday. It was pretty bright at night.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The deer activity has been down. I don't know. I know we talked about it last week, Dallas, and I don't want to believe that there is actually any sort of issue with the deer herd, but it's just odd. I don't know. Maybe it's because we're paying more attention, but it just seems like there's not as much deer activity as there normally is in the places where there normally is. And yes, there's a lot of factors. The mass crop is down. Wow, Luna is like right in the action. She wants to be. What does she have anything to say, Jim?
Nope, she might meow at you, but that's about it.
You have a hard time keeping that furry thing off your face, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at that dirt star! Nice. That thing's sweet.
Now you got to rate it.
Yep, rate it.
Explicit.
Yeah, that is. It's always explicit. But yeah, I don't know. It's. I'm excited to actually get some snow on the ground and get some cold weather to actually see if we can get the deer congregating a little bit and actually get kind of an idea of what we have for deer left after the season. Because, I mean, we didn't see shit for bucks on camera, Dallas. I mean, target buck wise, I thought for sure we'd have something showing up that last week of rifle when we had the cold weather,
but
nothing.
Still, we never got any prolonged cold or snow.
No.
You really need a good cold snap to really wake them up and really make them focus on food, and especially daytime food. We just haven't seen that. And I mean, we knew we were in for a bit of a lean year at the farm anyways, because we just didn't have any target bucks all summer. We were hoping that a mature buck would move in post rut, after the pressure got on and after the weather got cold, but we haven't had the weather portion of it to help us out with that. No. I mean, you got to remember that buck showed up, that 3-year-old showed up on Christmas Eve last year.
That was Norm, right?
Yeah, so it was, at that time, it was post-season, so it was like, oh, great, thanks for coming, season's over, but it was December 24th, and we had good snow and cold weather, and, he moved right in on that soybean field, and he didn't leave, I'm sure he was there all winter. His horns dropped pretty early, but I'm still optimistic a little bit, but not as much, just because I keep looking at the long-term forecast, and it just doesn't look like it's coming unless they change it, Unless we all of a sudden a lake effect snowstorm. I just don't see it at this point.
Last year on that muzzleloader, the last week of muzzleloader, I was sitting, in weather in the teens with 6 inches of snow on sunflower fields, and the deer were just yarded up, just piling in every night. And this year, I mean, it's just warm. It doesn't seem like they're yarding up.
Yeah.
Some of the food sources are different, but you should still be seeing the deer.
Well, it's funny because, you think of weather all year round, and you think cold fronts, during bow season, right from October 1st on, you think like cold fronts or weather pattern changes, things like this they're all going to help you, and they'll help you marginally, but you're still more looking for the time of year, the rut, that sort of thing. But in the late season, there's no bigger impact to me other than the rut itself. There's no bigger impact than late season extreme cold weather and snow. I mean, it's just like a light switch. If you can find the best food source, if you have a good food source available in the late season and the weather gets favorable, it's incredible the deer you'll start to see.
Yeah.
And you'll see them during the daylight too.
Yeah. Well, and that's so the 2 days, I walked. I didn't get going really hunting on Monday and Tuesday until 9:30, 10 o'clock each morning, and hunted until about 2:30, 2:30. But all the deer and all of the concentrated sign that I found, with having a little bit of snow on the ground yet, was in hemlocks. Like that's where the deer I shot, the button buck Jim that I shot on Monday, he was bedded with a few other deer in hemlocks. They were up on a top of kind of like young growth, what the hell like early successional habitat, where the state is actually managing some of this property, and they were coming down off the top and into the hemlocks, and that's where I ended up busting him up and got my shot at him. And then the other deer, I had several other sightings and run-ins with deer and on that same piece of property that day, all in the pines. And then, same thing yesterday, Jimbo, when we were where we were, basically all the deer we saw were in the pines. That deer that I kicked up to you that you missed, that came down across this awesome creek bottom that was like it was like pines, red brush, pines, and then up onto side hills on both sides. It was a badass area. And
it was kind of
like
that gnarly crabapple like brush up on the side hill towards the road.
Yeah.
And I was up in that when you messaged me, and then I worked back down out of the brush, so I was kind of in the open hardwoods, and then I saw that pine ridge out in front of me, and I was like, I bet you if I get in them pines, and that freaking deer came right out on me.
Yep, right on a string. And then right at the end, Jimbo got out, and he was followed that deer. He ended up you drew blood on that deer. You figure your bullet must have exploded and gave it a little haircut or flesh wound. So
I actually found that bullet went through that tree that I posted, and then it went through a dead limb about the same size, and then it went through another sapling about the same size, and then it went into the log where the deer was standing, and I found hair, and then I was like, well, I better start really looking. But where it hit the dead log, there was like shrapnel, like that bullet had blown into pieces at that point.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of snow on the ground, so I started following the track, and I knew he ran about 10 yards, 15 yards, and then he stopped and stood there while I, like an idiot, was trying to reload. And when it ran off, I mean, there wasn't a leg dangling or nothing. I would have noticed
that
after
you shot. You said the deer stopped and looked at you, and you were starting to try to reload, right?
Yeah, it jumped basically because I stopped it, and then it went to go back, and when I shot, it just kind of booked it 10 yards and then stopped. And then I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, I didn't freaking hit that deer. And then I went to reload because what else are you going to do at that point? And sure as shit, it just ran away. And I mean, the deer looked fine. It wasn't running like it was injured. But after I saw the hair, I was like, I better go look and see where it was standing. And where it was standing, there was a little bit of blood. And then when it was running, it was dropping a little bit, and I feel like I either skinned it across the chest with a fragment or across the leg, because it was pretty much every time it landed there was just a little dribble. But I followed it up across the road, and it never stopped or bedded or nothing. So
yeah,
it was a couple 100 yards.
And then Jimmy he basically came out to the road, like right where his truck was parked, because we parked on two sides of the property so we could kind of hunt around it. And he drove down to the end and came up in the woods, 150, 200 yards into the woods towards me as I was pushing, the final stretch of this block of pines. Mm-hmm. And he bumped two deer. He jumped a spike and a doe, and they came hauling ass straight at me, and, 25 yards broadside running past me, and I'm yelling like, I'm trying to get them to stop, and they wanted nothing. And they maybe have played that game before, I don't know, but they just kept hauling ass and ran right by me. So I was like, yeah, that ain't gonna happen. You got your scope zoomed into 7, and they come running by at 25 yards. That's a difficult situation to square something up.
I already made that mistake once this year.
Yeah. Ooh, let's talk about that. Yeah, let's get a recap of the end of your rifle season, Jim, because that's emotional. I think you should talk it out.
I was just spraying and praying that whole weekend. It started Friday night. I was stand sitting, and I had 3 does come in, and they were downwind of me, and they smelled my tracks where I came into the woods and went down in the gully and then up to my stand. So they were a good clip away, but pretty much the last 45 minutes of light, they kind of just kept working towards me on my tracks, just smelling, watching, looking, and they stopped in the bottom, which was like 100 or so. And where I screwed up, I think the biggest is I didn't have my safety harness. I forgot my freaking rope. So I had no way to hook to the tree. And I just did not feel comfortable because that stands like on the edge of a gully. So I didn't want to like stand up or try to reposition or anything. So I pretty much just sat in the position I was in and just dealt with it. And I didn't really have a good rest or anything. But I took a crack at that doe before she left, and I missed her. And I went and tracked her. You know, she ran back towards the truck. So I went and followed her for a ways, and there was nothing. And then Saturday, I went to Naples, and we were at camp there, and I sat in a ladder stand in the morning on the side hill and shot a big old yote. He came trotting through, and he stopped at like 60 on a ridge. I tipped him over, and then we went and hunted around the hill. And then I got in a ladder stand on the other side of the hill. My Uncle Mike was bringing the side hill to me, and it was pretty windy on the face of that hill, and you couldn't hear anything coming. And I was actually like, man, he's got to be past me by now. I'm going to get down. And when I went to get down and throw the gun over my shoulder, doe was standing there at 15 yards. It snuck up on the other side of the pine tree from me, and she turned and ran, and she stopped at like 85, and it was 85 or 100. And I had a nice rest on a pine limb, so I let that eat, and I didn't touch her either. So that was 2 does I missed that weekend. And then Sunday I went back to the farm with our buddies, and we were doing some pushes, and we went and did a couple of little patches right before we were calling it a day. And the first patch that one of the guys went into kicked a beauty out, and he was running out back, and one of our other buddies was shooting at him. And then I saw this deer like 600 yards, like running across the open cornfield. And I'm zoomed all the way in watching this deer, thinking that's the deer that ran out in front of me that went that way. And I'm just watching it to make sure it's not hit. And it stopped, and it was just standing there, wide open cornfield. And I'm like, yeah, that deer's not.
This is like a 100-acre cornfield, like a gigantic.
So it was like, it was probably 800 yards away from me, and I could just see it running. So I zoomed all the way in, and I'm watching it, and I could see it pretty good. And as I lower the gun from deciding it's not hit, I got a monster just barreling at me at freaking Mach speed, and I'm on 9 zoom and with a bolt action. So I ripped 2 off, and he freaking jumped in the woods next to me at like 25 yards and stopped and looked right at me. And it was like on the line of where I should be shooting and not shooting. So I didn't shoot again. And he just ran into, where we couldn't get him. So that was that for that weekend.
You've had a lot of opportunity, really. I mean,
I'm telling you, between this year and last year, if I hit all the deer I was shooting at, you'd just be buried.
I know.
Let me know if you need a hired gun.
Yeah, right. Brian has bullets will travel. So
you know what Brian. I will take, Brian, or Dallas, is maybe some lessons.
It's the second shot that's the most important shot, Jim.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Dallas?
I tell you, we need to take this junior bushwhacker under our wings. And
I know. I'm starting to see his deficiencies pretty clearly.
Yeah, my marksmanship is not quite there, but if you just keep feeding them, you'll get one sooner or later.
I don't think I've had that many opportunities in my life, as many as you've had the last 2 years.
Well, then you missed another nice buck this weekend. Not to rub that in. Yeah.
Which one was that? Oh, Jesus, I forgot about that one. So okay, moving into muzzleloader weekend here. I hunted the farm, and I didn't see anything the first night, I don't think. And then so I came out, went to camp on Saturday, and we did a hike. I didn't see any deer. And then Sunday I took my father-in-law to camp, and we've been getting these deer in one of our meadows right after dark, like consistently. And the buck was maybe like once or twice a week, but like pretty consistent right after dark. Like he's hanging close. so I was kind of putting it all together in my head on where he could be coming from or where he's staying. And I dropped my father-in-law off at one of the, the Hunt Works ground blinds that we got running over there. I dropped him off there to check that out. And then I went down to the next ridge where I thought maybe these deer had been hanging and hitting our meadow, just after legal light. And sure as shit, I bumped 2 does off the ridge walking in. And I was like, no, I got him in that ground blind. I'll at least sit here till 8 o'clock or so, and then we'll still hunt. And 20 minutes after I sat down up against a tree, I looked down. There's another deer walking the edge of the swamp. And he's kind of coming towards me down below me. And there's a camp at the end of the pond there, and the people were there. And you could hear something, whether the door opened, they let their dog out or something, but he perked up. And he was standing there watching the house. And then he turned and just started feeding right up the ridge to me. And he got about 100. And he turned. This was a pretty steep downhill, but I mean, it should have been fine. He turned and started heading back south, which is not stuff that we're, the further south he goes, the worse it is for us. And I figured he was probably heading back into bedding. So I was like, it's now or never. And I let her rip. And he turned, ran downhill, made a half loop, and then he stopped right on the bench and just stood there. And I'm just watching him in the scope, and I'm like, I didn't touch that freaking deer. So I reload, and he starts coming towards me again, and he's walking right into the brush in front of me. And I'm like, this is going to happen again. I'm going to get another shot. And right about then, the wind swirled, and he turned and booted out the back of that brush. And I went over there and made sure I didn't hit him. But there's tons of deer sign down there. It's definitely where the deer are hanging when they're hitting our food plots just after light. So, or just after dark.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was that buck. And then I'm pretty sure that buck or that deer that I missed with you, I'm pretty sure that was a buck with his horns off already.
Yeah, because
that was a big deer by itself.
We're talking yesterday, and that track was a good track, and I assumed it was a buck track that I was following through the swamp, and it was running through a pretty heavily used deer trail that had a lot of buck rubs on it, and I mean it makes sense that would be a buck that had his horns dropped. So
it was definitely a big deer on its own, and sneaking, not like jet assing out of there. He was sneaking right up that pine ridge till he heard the meh.
Tree bark. Dallas, it's concerning, isn't it, Dallas? Hearing these stories, I don't know. I almost feel like he's an endangerment to the outdoors to be out there at this point.
Just trying to create more habitat, let sunlight in.
Trees down.
I think I'm developing a new hunting strategy. It's going to be I'm going to be Jimmy's gun. I'm just going to follow him around for a week or two with my gun and just see what happens.
Yeah.
He's obviously better.
The problem is then I'd be tagged out earlier, and I'm not so sure I want to do that either.
Right. You got to running into him, Jimmy. That's for sure.
I know how to find him. I just got to figure out how to kill him.
That's 90% of it is just finding them, just getting opportunities.
Yeah. Well, the damnedest thing is, Jim, is that it's not that you haven't killed a lot of deer, and it's not that you haven't killed a lot of deer with those weapons. It's just for whatever reason, like you had a rough muzzleloader season last year. You missed a bunch of deer. Like the last 2 years that we're even in the same neighborhood, deer count wise, it's not even really realistic. Like it's a joke that I'm even tied with you at this point because you've had that much more opportunity. But
trying to help you out.
You're hunting some very target rich environments, and I'm challenging myself to be a better hunter and to go to areas with not a lot of deer. So, I also think that's a factor that needs to be thought about here. Is that
I think you just, we've been brought up our whole life to work smarter, not harder. So why wouldn't you hunt smarter, not harder?
I don't know. It was pretty fun yesterday, wasn't it? That was pretty fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I had a ball.
Ground.
But that was like one of the first days I didn't have any like time constraint.
Yeah, it's nice.
Like I left the house at, a little before daybreak, and I went and shot my muzzleloader to make sure it was good because I shot that doe Monday and I spined her, and I'm like, okay, something's going on here. So I went and shot it. No, it was right on the money. So That's Big Jim. Just
Yep.
ripping shots.
Yep. It's
But
practice.
that was the first day that I have really had to be like out in the woods all day long. No worries. So that was really nice to just go after it all day.
That is the one. That's the big thing about having those private spots to hunt, is that it just takes way less time to do it.
Yeah.
You know, you can spend hour or two here and there doing setups and scouting and camera and this and that, and get everything ready for when you have that couple hours in the afternoon or the morning where you can sneak out and hunt. You know, you kind of divide your time up better. Whereas when you want to do those big public land hunts, you have to dedicate a day to it, and then that can be impossible at times to be able to find that amount of time, especially when you got young kids and things like that. So,
yeah,
I get that, no doubt.
Yeah, since we've had Jay, the majority of my hunting has been, after work, whether it's an hour and a half or 2 hours. I mean, that's the majority of my hunting. So.
Yeah.
I mean, you've made a living off of that the last last 10 years, Dallas. And I mean, I know that's how I've been able to hunt so much the last couple of years. Well, especially this year, I probably got 20 more sits than I had all last year, but a ton of like hour-long sits or running out. Like I'd have a work day where it was quiet from 11 to 1, and I would go out and sit from 11 to 1 and just see if I got lucky and had something cruise by. Like, just taking opportunities when they're given to you to get out there and try to capitalize. And it doesn't always work, but if you're not out there, you're not going to see them. You're not going to get a chance. So
can't kill them from the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, if you're going to try those 1 or 2 hour hunts, the best way to do it is to have a lot of your prep work done. Do your homework, do your setups, get everything ready so that when you do have just an hour before dark, you already got a preset stand, or you got a blind, or you got a food plot, or you got something going for you where you just can be like, okay, I know, southwest wind, I know I can sit on the corner of this field or something like that, where you have confidence where it makes it worth it going out there for that hour or two,
Right. No doubt. And the blinds have been clutch for that this year. I mean, we've had several, we shot on the farm. I missed the one doe on the farm. And that hunt, I went out for 1 hour, and it freaking worked exactly the way I drew it up, that we drew it up. Those does came out right into the cut corn, and I just missed the shot. My gun was off. We documented or discussed that already. So that was out of the buck. That was out of the buck hut. Yeah.
That turned out to be a blessing, though, that you missed that doe, right?
Oh, yeah, because if I didn't, 100%. If I didn't miss that doe, I never would have realized my gun was off. I never would have sighted in. I wouldn't have shot my buck. So, yeah,
That's unfortunate for me.
Yes, it is unfortunate for you. Yeah, because I could have been missing deer for another 2.5 weeks. That would have been hilarious. But Brian shot on opening night. Brian shot 2 does out of that blind. And same night on the other side of the road, you shot your 2, right? So
one over there.
Oh, that's right. You shot the other one over at the other piece of property in the morning. But having the blind set up, really on the farm has been a freaking godsend, because you could just pop into them quick and get in and out.
Especially when they're upright.
Yeah, that's something we should discuss. A pertinent pro tip about how to properly stake a buck hut. You want to talk about that, Dallas?
Sure.
Since you're the one that set it up, and now it is not set up.
Yeah, Dad and I are the one that took the 8 hours to build and install those 2 blinds. And on the first one, we forgot to take the stakes up with us. So I went back like a couple weeks later. It was already like mid-October, and I took the 4 stakes, and all I had with me was a ball peen hammer. But it's soft. It's like borderline swamp ground over there, Yeah. So I'm like, well, I'll just go over there and shove them in as far as I can, because, the likelihood of us getting 80-mile-an-hour sustained winds for a week freaking straight during deer season is probably pretty low, right? Even though we live in freaking wind country, I mean,
right.
It would take some extreme wind to blow the blind over, right? So I go up there with my ball peen hammer, and I get like 2 of them, I get like 3/4 of the way in the ground, and 2 I get like halfway in the ground. And I'm not going to just sit. I'm like, I'm banging away at this thing. It sounds like you driving a bullet into your muzzleloader, like ding 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 ding. And it's freaking the middle of archery season, so I'm like, okay, when the thing gets to a point where it stops, I'm just going to leave it. We'll be fine for this year. And then it ends up being the windiest freaking. I mean, starting with the when we got home from PA the night of the Bills, I went to the Bills game. We had like 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and then I think it was the Saturday after that where we had even stronger winds to the point where apparently it just lifted that blind right up off the ground and it flipped it over backwards. Unfortunately, there was enough brush and stuff behind it where I think it made a fairly soft landing and didn't blow away further.
Yeah.
But we still haven't. I mean, that's something we need to probably do the next couple days before the season opens back up, is probably need to get like 4 of us go over there and tip that thing back up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we just need to set the plan. I mean, I could do it Friday, Christmas Eve. You know, I'd be available for a little while to go over there, and I'll have the kids, but we could just leave them in the side-by-side and tip it up. But
Yeah.
I went by it I don't know what day it was, last Saturday. I went by it with the kids, and I mean, it looks fine. It looks like it held up. I mean, just like you said, I think it went straight up in the air and came straight down on the back. And like the ladder isn't even bent. Like I would have figured the ladder would have bent or something would have.
It looks like it pivoted on the ladder, like it tipped, because the ladder was on the downwind side. So it seems like it picked it up against the ladder and then kind of rotated around the ladder and landed on its side. And I mean, it does look fine. I mean, the plan was to take the tarp off the outside of it, the soft shell off of it after the season, but we didn't make it that far.
No.
I don't know how the one on our other buddy's farm didn't flip over, because it was like on a knob.
Yeah, there's nothing
on the
there's
east side of the
zero.
farm with nothing, like all the way across the river bottom.
But you said Greg had that thing like anchored
So
down.
I think he
cables
used the
and stuff,
4
right?
anchors that came with it, and then I think he used something from some
From work?
ties from Grid or something, and then like I think he took a huge strap, like a trucking strap, and he went up and through the platform and then down to an anchor on each side and like ratcheted it down.
Yeah.
And that thing did not even flinch. And then he had one of the pop-up blinds from the Hunt Works.
No,
He
it's
had
like
one of
it's like a
those.
7-foot tall one that you can stand up in and shoot your
Yeah.
bow. Yeah.
He had that thing like 14 feet up, 12, 14 feet up on hay bales out in the middle of the flats.
Mhm.
Still there.
Which is
I'm
wild.
like, dude, I thought that thing was going to be a mile away. I offered to go take it down when the wind started, and he was like, "No, that'll be all right." I'm like, "Oh my god, all right, we'll leave it there."
Yeah.
Go.
Were the windows open? Any of the windows open on that, Dallas? The one that got up off the ground? I just wonder if that led to that.
It looks,
air in it.
when I seen it on the ground, it looked like the windows were open, so that might have been what happened.
Yeah, maybe the wind got inside it. Kite lifted
Yeah.
it right up.
It is what it is, but that's just a fun fact for people to think about.
Hurting your pro tip.
Make sure your shit is tied down, because you never know when we're going to get bad weather around here. And I think we've like in moving forward, I think I'd like to get some sort of, whether it's some sort of weight system to put underneath the platform, that's on the ground with some sort of a strap or a cable to it, just as an assistance there or something.
You're about ready to retire your truck. You could just drive that out there and put the blind right over it, tie it down to it.
I think tonight's it's turning into a lessons learned podcast, right? We're talking less about success and more about failures. So between the blind blowing over, Jimmy missing all those deer, Billy having scope mounts, what else did we fail at?
Did you fail at anything this year, Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas, where's your failure?
Yeah, what are you, a perfect? You fucking Mr. Perfect over there, or what?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well,
you did put the
bad
blinds
one
up,
of
so
you.
that is your failure, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wrong one. The map.
What's
Dallas
Uncle Tim
map.
got to say about the
Yeah,
the buck huts? 10-foot logs.
10-foot logs ought to do it. That's a great point. We're going to cut a bunch of timber this winter, Dallas. We'll just take some logs over there and put them underneath it and strap it to it. That's
Yeah,
brilliant, Tim.
I want to take a ton of like branches and stand them up again around the outside of it too, just for cover, as far as
Yeah.
like and around
When
it too.
you're
So,
climbing up to get into it, it'd be nice to
So,
not have the food plot able to see
Daniel, that hardworking son of a bitch from the Hunt Works, he just chimed in and said Banks Blinds actually makes a ground anchor. So probably one that goes in the ground directly below it, anchors it straight down. I think that's essentially what Greg did with his.
it's an easy fix. It's just lesson learned.
Lesson learned.
So I'm sure next year we'll learn a bunch of new lessons that we didn't know we had to learn.
You must have something that you learned this year, Dallas. I mean, you've had a good season, but you've actually been pretty. You haven't really hunted that hard since the beginning of rifle. I don't feel like you hunted PA obviously, but you haven't. You've kind of been picking and choosing your time.
I think I made 4 trips to PA this year to hunt, and put in a total of 7 days there, I guess.
Mhm.
And other than that, I mean, I haven't hunted New York very hard at all. I knew after I killed my buck that it was going to be hard to kill another one because I just didn't really have necessarily a target buck lined up. I had definitely had a few in mind that I would like to shoot, but the 2 that we had at the farm briefly there at the end of bow season, they never showed back up. I mean, I'm still hoping on them a little bit, but haven't seen them since mid-November. So I use cameras more and more every year, not to try to pattern deer as much as just trying to know who's alive and who I want after,
I think that's what got me at camp this year is we knew what was there. And from the neighbors and us combined, we knew what died. And I was just like, everything that was there that was worth a shit is gone. So I'm like, I don't really, I've hunted there a couple times. That was it.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to hit on that point. I didn't plan on talking about that tonight, but trail cams, I would say, over the last 2 years, we've all implemented a ton of cell cams on top of our normal cameras that we have. And I can't say that a cell camera has really been that impactful on me actually killing a deer. Almost all the deer I've killed have been nowheres where I have a camera, and it's just been, being in a good spot at the time when it comes together. But it is nice, to your point, Dallas, like what is around, when they're kind of moving. We're not necessarily putting them excuse me, putting them in a spot. Rona.
That's a long sneeze.
That is, well, it's a big nose, Jim. That's a lot of air flowing there. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on it, but I don't feel like the cameras are helping us kill deer. I just feel like they're helping us know what's going on.
I think, like Dallas said, it's a really good inventory source, an up to the minute inventory source.
Yeah, so we've tried to use the cutty links to pattern deer a little bit by putting them back in the cover or putting them on scrapes or different things where you think you could use them to better advantage. But the problem is something's always wrong. The batteries are dead, or you're out of cell range, or there's a branch in front of it that's setting off the camera, so you have to turn it off remotely, and then that's fine, but you got to go fix the problem. And more and more with the cell cams, I'm thinking of just moving them more towards the food plots and the edge of cover and things like that, where they're easy to get at. And I'm just realizing that just cameras in general, be it cell cams or just SD cards, I'm just using them for inventory. Really, what I want to know is I'm using the summer and the early fall to identify the bucks that are on the property and that the ones that I might want to target. And then, of course, during the rut, you're going to pick up a bunch of new ones. But, the whole thing to me is I want to know if the buck is alive or not. So, I'm into that right now at one of my properties. Is just I've got 3 3-year-old bucks there, and I know 2 of them are. I'm 90% sure 2 of them are still alive today, and I'm 50% sure the other one is. But that's almost like my main goal with deer hunting this season right now. The way it is just trying to see if I can get those those 3 and the one at the farm, another 3-year-old, I just want to know every day whether they're alive or not. And I'm just really, other than doing some hunts next week and trying to get a little more venison in the freezer, I'm really just trying to identify bucks for next year. And that's what I'm using cameras for entirely. And that works great because you don't have to worry about how often you check them, or you don't have to be too concerned about it. You just need to get pictures that just identify that the deer are alive that you want to be, Yeah. And that could be or next year. It doesn't matter. It's just you want to know.
I ended up joining the Spy Point Insiders. And that gives you 250 free a month on each camera. And then between everybody else buying them and sending you referral points, and when you buy a new one, you get referral points. Like when one reaches its limit for the month during hunting season, I just use Spy dollars to buy another month of unlimited. But that's been working out really well. And it's like, with the amount of time you have now to run around and actually check cameras, it's became like a huge advantage to just be able to sit there on your phone and be like, well, that's here, that's there, this is moving then. But just to have an inventory more than like I can spot this deer and go kill him. So the buck that I did shoot during archery, we had way more pictures of him than I realized.
Oh, really?
Yeah, me and our buddy were going back through pictures the other day when we were cutting deer, and we started actually identifying the one that I shot, and I was like, holy shit, I never connected all these dots that this was this deer hanging around here. But where I wanted to hunt that morning, he would have been on the opposite end of the woods from me, and I probably, maybe I would have seen him later in the morning like I had been getting him on camera. But, I was in the right spot in the right time at sunup, and he walked right by. I didn't have a camera over there. I put a tree stand up there and hunted one evening in it, and I knew it was a good spot close to bedding. The wind was right, and I needed that stand to move back there. And it just all worked perfect. But now looking back at all those pictures, it's the inventory. You knew there was good bucks in the area. You didn't know which ones they were. And I guess I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I just knew, in this time period would be a good time to be in there because this deer keeps showing up. And going back through and looking at all the pictures, you actually connect all the dots, which was pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, that's what I seem to notice too, is like I just pick my best situation for that day. And obviously it's biased towards what deer are in what property or whatever, but hunt the wind that gets you to the spot that you're in the game and go there. And when it works out, a lot of times you do end up looking back and going through your pictures and going through your hunts in your head and start to put together the pieces afterwards, and looking back and seeing how it all came together. It's pretty cool. I mean, I thought I was on that one buck this year, and I shot my buck, and I thought it was that one that I was after. I thought it was I was so excited that I shot my target buck, and then I found out it's a different one. And he's actually bigger than the one I was targeting.
Right.
But I was basing all my information on I put myself in a good spot just based on that, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So
that buck though that I was targeting is the one that I think is. I got a pretty good idea that he's still alive, even though I haven't had him on for sure on camera since the 2nd, but I think he's still alive. So I think I'm gonna be legit hunting. Let's say 50% chance now that I'll be legit hunting a 150 plus 4-year-old next year.
Yeah, that's exciting.
That's very exciting. Yeah.
You're going to spend some time over there this winter trying to find sheds and stuff, or you think they winter in there at all? Or
no, I've never shed hunted there because they don't bed there very much.
Yeah,
buck stuff. Not that they won't drop a shed on the way through. I mean, it might be worth it, but
yeah,
I don't care. Like I said, all I want to know is that he's alive, and then I'm gonna focus my time on that.
Yep. Well, that's kind of the recap on the, I guess on the end of the season. and some of the things that we've learned. But we got the next week coming up, this first time holiday hunt here in New York, and I know we're going to be doing some group hunts. We're going to be doing some different stuff. Probably not a ton of sitting. And it doesn't look like the weather's going to be great for sitting. Like we're not going to really get any nasty cold weather to really drive you to want to sit a food plot or anything like that. So I think we're going to be doing a lot of mainly group hunts next week, right, Dallas? And I think Jimbo's going to join us on Monday, wherever we end up going.
Yeah, I think I'm in for Monday, and we're gonna do a group on Thursday as well. So I mean, I think that's pretty much at this point. I mean, it's the most fun thing to do, anyways. But I think now it's probably our best chance right now is just go out there and cover ground and try to kick them in the ass and get them moving, and hope we run into something. I mean, if nothing else, I'm sure we're gonna pack out a few does each day. So that makes it.
So do either of you know, and shame on me for not, I need to look into it. How does it work in that holiday hunt, tag wise? Like your DMAP or your not DMAPs, they're the dome management permits. They're only good still for the regions that you have them for, right?
It's still just like the regular muzzleloader season. Everything's the same.
That means I don't have a doe tag to use.
I do.
For which area?
Well, you got
where we're going on Monday. I don't have a doe tag.
Well, we should definitely go there then.
I'm going to be bird dogging that day. I'm trying to get the goal for Monday is to get Dad a deer, because I don't think Dad has never not shot a deer, and he has had just a freaking hell of a year with work and not had the time to hunt. So I'm really excited for him to be able to hunt during this week. And I actually ran into Howie today, and I asked him if he could come with us on Wednesday, and he said he's more than welcome. So that's my goal this upcoming week, is to get some deer in front of Dad and let him shoot the gun, because it's been a rough, Dad, he's had a lot of success on opening day at gun the last several years. He typically shoots the first buck he gets decent buck he gets an opportunity at. And he always devotes his time on opening day to making sure everybody has a good opening day. And that's, my grandpa's best friend, Bob, that's, almost 90 years old, mid 80s, and he still comes up there. So Dad's watching over Bob and making sure everybody's good. And, his best friend Joel, making sure he's taken care of, getting to his spot and back. And it's like, so Dad puts everybody first and never gets to take any time for himself. So that's like mission number one for me, especially Monday and Wednesday, is to get Dad on some deer. So I guess it's not about me, Jim, is what it comes down to. If I end up losing the test and Dad shoots a deer, that's
if you end up winning, I gave it to you already. So
you did, and I appreciate that.
I'm running 50-50 here at the moment.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna have a decent sized group Monday, and we're gonna put some plans together for that. We'll get a head count as we get closer to the weekend, and draw up some maps and figure out how many rhinos we got. So we got some communication on that end and two-way radios, so we can all stay communicado, and we'll line that up. And I don't think I'm going to be able to join you guys, Dallas, on Thursday, which I'm kind of bummed about, but it is what it is. So I will.
I don't know. We'll have to see if we can get it done without you, Billy. I'm not sure if we can, but we'll try.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll be just fine. You'll be just fine.
Does anybody have extra bullets?
I have lots of bullets. What do you shoot? You shoot the Thompson Centers, or?
No, I switched away from those after last year, but it turns out it wasn't the bullet.
Wasn't the bullet? No.
Be the bullet. Be the bullet.
No, it ain't the bullet. I switched to a 300 grain this year. I figure most of my shots with my muzzleloader are under 100 yards, so you might as well throw something heavy at them.
300 is not even that big. I got a Thompson Center 300 here. I got 2 boxes. Is that what you're shooting, or no?
No, they're somebody made out of Canada.
Canada.
But they don't have an AccuTip on them or anything. They're just a lead hollow point.
The fuck you shooting? Like I'm shooting some no-name ammo out of Canada. You don't know what it is?
It's great stuff. Let me get it. I'll tell you.
Yeah, would you? I'll tell you what. I found. I don't know if I told you, Dallas, but we were all shooting. Brian and Bob and I and Tard. We were all shooting those 348s power belts, and they stopped making them. and I stopped at this gun shop, Precision Rifles QT. It's got a quality tip on it. Nice, Jim.
I think
Those
that's what QT stands for.
I mean,
Yeah,
they shot a
huge
huge
tip.
buck, so
with
The
a
buck on the
rifle.
bag.
Yeah. But I stopped at some random gun shop out in Moravia, New York, and they had 2 of those, the plastic, whatever you want to call it, packages of those 348s, and I was fired up. I'm like, I bought both of them. They were way overpriced, but I was like, you can't find these things anywhere. They had dust on them and everything, so I was pretty excited about that.
my problem's primers. I can't find primers anywhere.
That's another problem.
Shotgun or muzzleloader primers?
Muzzleloader.
Shot shell primers.
Those are 209 shot shells or shotgun primers, right?
You should stop. Well, you were just down in Addison, weren't you, Jim?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't stop at that gun shop, did you?
I didn't see one in Addison. The only one I
It's
knew of
right
down
on-
there is
Right on Main Street. It's called Gun Shop. I think it's the name of the place.
Are you talking about Andover?
No, Addison, right? When you come across the bridge coming into town like you're going to the bus garage, there's a new gun shop on the right-hand side. And I went in there, and it's a nice little shop. It's new with new owners. I
They
don't
should
know
put
how
a
long
bigger
it's been.
sign up out front.
The other place to check is Arkport. They got a nice gun shop there. But yeah, if you find those things, you just buy them. Like I bought a
Yeah.
couple packages, and Eric Redder, he just bought a muzzleloader, and that he had the same problem. He couldn't find primers, and I found him those. I marked them up. I sold them to him at like double what I paid for them. Just to
Well,
justify
if
my
anybody
time.
wants to donate to the cause of Jimmy beating Billy, I'm gonna need some more, primers and bullets to get through this thing.
Oh, that's funny. It's all right, Jim. It's gonna be all right.
No, we'll make it.
We will.
Accuracy from here on out. That's where we're at.
No doubt. Let's see here. I want to have a couple things I want to talk about. On first thing I want to talk about, and you said you weren't aware of this, Jimmy, but I was messaging with you and Danny today, and I don't know if Dallas, if you'd seen the hubbub over the last week and a half about the whole Matt Ranella, Steve Ranella thing. Did you see any of that?
No.
Negative.
Well, the long and the short of it is that Matt Ranella wrote an article.
You there, Bill?
We lost Billy.
We lost Billy. That's all right. We didn't really want to talk about what he wanted to talk about anyways.
What do you want to talk about, Jim? Tell
What
you
do
what
you
else.
guys-
I've only packed out one quarter this year, and I've only been in on the quartering of one deer that was Billy's deer, and brought
See,
out front quarter. I'm just dying to skin and quarter some deer on the ground next week.
I was really excited to try out your guys' method, and I thought me and Billy would get it done yesterday. And even if I had shot that deer, it was like 75 yards from the road, and my truck was like 200 yards down the road.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would have been worth quartering it out.
Well, time will come.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Monday.
Where we're going Monday, you ain't dragging nothing out of there.
Billy said that's
You guys
a
talking
better.
shit?
Yeah.
What
Billy said
happened?
that's a better setup over there than where we hunted the other day because it's like a bumper system where they just go back and forth.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's a really fun place to hunt. Can be a little frustrating. It's hard to get around, but it's definitely a good setup.
I went through there in a hot air balloon one time.
Mhm.
You could get really close to them in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got dropped right down to the gorge, sweeped right over. There was deer all over underneath us. It was great.
Yeah.
We should rent that out for the muzzleloader hunt on Monday.
That would be fun.
We could have a guy do a drift over.
Get like the guys that shoot the coyote and the pigs out of the helicopters.
All right, I'm back. I don't know what happened. My internet. I think it was because I said the word Ranella and it didn't like
We were
me.
fine. We were fine without you.
I know you were. It sounded like you guys had it covered. What'd you say, Joss?
Big Brother was watching you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We just made fun of you the whole time you were gone. So
I assumed all 30 seconds. It took no time to make fun of me.
no, I mean we definitely could get in like 4 or 5 jokes in that amount of time. So
Oh, no doubt. Mainly
Wait till you
about the
hear 'em.
size of my nose. Yeah.
No, that one's been beat up on enough. It's a long story.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, you're an asshole. So long and the short of it is that Matt Ranella wrote this article about how like would hunting be better if everybody unfollowed and stopped posting stuff on social media, and he kind of made comments about how the worst person for hunting in the outdoors right now is Joe Rogan because he's like promoting the hell out of it, and he kind of like went after his brother a little bit. And said like he's not gonna go to Christmas dinner with his brother if his brother keeps hanging out with Joe Rogan. It was like kind of a ridiculous article. And then he did a podcast with he went on the Blood Origins podcast, and I haven't listened to that one yet, but I've listened to a couple different podcasts that have talked about that podcast. I need to go and listen to it. But then Danny texted me on Monday morning and goes, Matt Ranella's on the Meat Eater podcast this week with his brother, and he goes, it's like cringeworthy, the podcast. But I don't know how far in Danny was. So I just started into listening to it myself tonight. And I got a hot take, and my hot take is I think that this whole thing is like put on. I think that they're doing this to like get traffic because the article comes out last week, then Free Range American is where it was posted. Free Range American took the article down. Then the podcast came out right around the same time with Blood Origins. Then all these other podcasts did podcasts about this podcast. And then now Ranella has his brother on the podcast on Monday for their holiday extravaganza. And it's an entertaining show. Like I'm listening to it. It's funny and it's fun to listen to. But it's like, what are we like? It almost feels like, I don't know, like this world now, it feels like if it feels like shit and smells like shit, it's probably shit. And it seems like that might be what's going on here.
it's funny though because I'll say that like Steve always seems like a pretty genuine guy to me. So it doesn't seem like him to put on and act like that. But at the same time, like that theory that you just spun about how, this, like all the dominoes falling in place, he's one to talk about that sort of thing. So he's definitely got that kind of thing in his mind. You know what I mean?
Well, he's a businessman. Like what they're doing is good for business. Like I haven't listened to the Meat Eater podcast in 2, 3, 4 months. Like I'm not listening anymore. Like there's a lot of other things that are getting my attention. I'm very in tune with politics right now, and I'm listening to business stuff and a little bit of hunting podcasts. I don't listen to too many anymore. And it's like, and now here I am, I'm listening to Meat Eater again. So on the business perspective, they're getting clicks, they're getting people talking about it. And now people are talking about the Ranellas all over the place. And again, I think Steve Ranella is great for hunting, and I love his content. I watch the show on TV. I enjoy what they do, but it just makes me wonder if it's a calculated thing, I guess is what it makes me wonder.
So back to Matt's original point though is like I've thought a lot about this thing. Like for one thing, Joe Rogan, he is good for hunting because he reaches an audience that nobody in the hunting industry does. I mean, people from all walks of life listen to Joe Rogan. I mean, the last I knew, he's the most popular podcast that there was
in the world ever. Yeah.
Yeah. So more people are listening to Joe Rogan through this media than anyone else. So if he's talking about hunting in a positive light, he's good for it. And there's no doubt, there's no two ways to look about it. But if you look at a lot of the people who are popular in that space right now, they're all talking about, they're all good for getting more hunters involved. And that's what we need, right? No doubt that this sport will die if we don't have people like Steve Ranella and Joe Rogan and the hunting public and, Randy Newberg and people like that advocating for what we do. Right. Because it could go away just as easily as, you have to accept the fact that, millions and millions of people are watching the hunting public videos every day. And they're encouraging people to go out and hunt the places that we want to hunt.
Yeah.
So everybody that, you know, all the people that thought they had this honey hole on public land, that all of a sudden tons of people are coming in there, and they're probably cursing the hunting public and the Steve Rinellas at the same time as you have to sit there and think, well, this is good for our sport. So it's kind of a push-pull thing there too, like it's good for us, but it's bad for us at the same time. So I think that's the dilemma that they're playing on that. Like, you've probably had this dilemma or this conflict in your mind at some points, right? Like you're out there hunting on public land, and all of a sudden there's 12 trucks parked at the spot where last year or 2 years ago there was nobody, right? You were the only one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting attention. People are going out
right,
and trying to do the style of hunting that we're doing, but we got it from somewhere too. I mean, yeah, we were, you know, I was brought up that way, and we were introduced to that stuff to some extent, but I was definitely emboldened by watching YouTube videos of these guys, right? So they're reaching an audience, and they're having an impact, and they're doing exactly what they want, but they're even suffering it from themselves, you know?
Yeah, right. Their spots are getting blown up because
their spots are getting blown up. They're hiding their vehicles so that people don't come and talk to them. Meanwhile, the people that were hunting their spots before they showed up, they're getting all pissed off at these guys, right? So it's like an endless cycle here, but you have to look at this and say, is this a positive or a negative, right? But I think, I really think it's a net positive in the end. We need people to be encouraged to go out and explore our public lands, and it's not just public lands I'm talking about, but that's the main place where it's easy to see that these people, these, let's call them influencers, they're having an effect on what the industry is doing and what the, you know, I mean, again, bottom line is we need hunters, we need to sell hunting licenses, we need people to advocate for hunting, for public lands, all this kind of stuff. We need that.
Yeah.
You know, but everyone's conflicted by it too, I think.
Well, I think where it gets sloppy is with the term influencer and who are the real influencers. You know, there are a ton of people out there who have made a career, you know, and hey, everybody's entitled to make a living, you know, selling yourself as a person, being a salesperson for product A, product B. But I think that was one of the things too that I think Rinella was getting at in his article and in the podcast he was talking about is like, what are people doing when once they stop getting paid by those companies? Are they going to keep going out and hunting hard and working on their property and are they out there, you know, 200 days a year living that life because they love it, or are they doing that because that's what they're getting paid to do? And I think that's this weird thing. And I've gotten torn. I go through these like cycles where 1 minute I'm not even thinking about it. The next minute I see something that just like totally disgusts me, where it's like I see this person who knows nothing about nothing that has got 80 to 100,000 followers. And it's not all about followers. A lot of it turns into ego when you're like, I'm trying to grow a platform and a podcast, and I see our slow trending growth, but then I see somebody else that is over here with their thing and they're just like massive with their social media following, but that doesn't mean shit in the end, because at some point that's going to go away. And then are you still going to be a good person? Are you going to be advocating for hunting and conservation and, you know, supporting your community? And I think that's where we have, you know, we've continued to talk about this and to stay laser focused with that. But, you know, there's guys like, you know, Steve Rinella and Joe Rogan and Cam Hanes and these giant names in the hunting space that reach people outside of the hunting space, and they're good for us. They're good for hunting. And if the camp, like I was listening to Aaron Snyder on Working Class Bowhunter today, and it was an outstanding conversation because right around the same time is when Austin Chandler shot his big buck, and that buck got eaten by coyotes, and they posted that picture, and that shit went viral for good, right, wrong, or indifferent reasons. I don't necessarily have a problem with them posting that picture. I have no problem with them posting that picture, but I think there's just, and I sent this message, you know, in the comments back when all that was going down to them on Instagram. I'm like, the problem is it's a nuanced conversation. A picture doesn't tell it. People are going to look at a picture. They're not going to know all the back end story of exactly what happened, why you let it lay, how quickly the coyotes got to it. Nobody's going to know that. And they're not even going to read the post. I mean, who actually reads a 3-paragraph long post on Instagram? I don't. You know, I'm just blowing through. I see something interests me, I click on it, and then you're on to the next. But where I was going with that is, like, you know, Snyder was talking, what was he? I forget what I was going to say. But on the podcast today with those guys, with Snyder, they had a lot of the same discussion. It was fantastic. And Aaron's been in the business for a long time and can speak a lot better to it. But, you know, I know what I was going to say is that, you know, like Aaron said, he goes, when all this goes away and he doesn't have social media, Aaron is he is extremely accessible. You can send him messages. He's doing Q&As nonstop, but he's like, the minute that I'm done with this and I don't have to do this anymore, I'm done with the social media and you won't ever hear or see from me again, but I'm still going to be out in the woods 150, 200 days a year, hunting, guiding, living that lifestyle. Like, the person's not going to change. And, like, to me, those are the people that I want to follow, the people that I want to interact with, is that, not the people that are doing it just for the money, because I don't need that. I'm already passionate about this. I don't need somebody to drive me to want to do more, because I feel like I'm already there. Like, this is the life I want to live, you know?
I feel like this industry is tough because it's became to the point where you can get, like, labeled so easily as, like, you're just doing it for Instagram or you're doing it for this or that. And, like, I've never been a big social media guy, and, like, I try to keep some of our content going, but it's like you said, Bill, I've been in the woods way more than you have, and it's like I just don't have any interest in posting stuff. Like, I just want to be out there and enjoy it. You know, I'll post when I kill something, but to me, that's not what it's about. And it's like I have that struggle when I look at all this stuff online, where I'm like, why you got to post everything you do? You know, but there's a place for it, and if the right people are doing it, you know, it helps our community. But for me, it's like an inner struggle with me of, like, why am I posting this? What am I doing? You know, it's like I'm doing this either way. I don't need, you know, I want to be out there and enjoy it. I don't need to post about it. So that's kind of like where the struggle comes from for me. And looking at this stuff, like, some of the stuff you don't know what to believe or what you're looking at or who's doing it or why they're doing it, or, you know, it's hard to get caught up in it. And, like, I was big into the podcast a while ago, like when they first started getting popular, but now, like, I can't even bring myself to listen to them because it's like, you know, the same shit over and over again. And you know, you got a decent set of podcasts out there that you can get some information off of, but I feel like there's only so much you can talk about it as far as strategy and what you're doing. If you're out there doing it, you're going to learn it one way or another. So it's funny. I always joke about, like, sitting around in the basement talking on a podcast, and it's like, for me, I'm like, I want to be out in the woods. I don't need to be doing podcast stuff. So it's tough because there's a place for it. There really is. And there's a ton of good stuff out there, but it's like, you know, the stuff that gets put out there. And I believe what you're saying, what your hot take is on that situation. You know, that could very well be a stunt.
Dallas, thoughts?
Yeah. So this is something that there's a greater conversation to be had, but this is something that, you know, spoiler alert, what really grinds my gears is, you know, social media and hunters. And, you know, you kind of touched on this on our last podcast, was that the negativity that you receive on every post you make, or that every topic that is brought up, is that, my God, hunters are one of the most negative groups of people in the fucking world. It's worse than politics sometimes. Yeah. I cannot believe all the Facebook groups that I follow. You know, I'm to the point where I'll follow more of them people will post something and I'll go in there just to read the comments. And I cannot, it blows my mind, the negativity about every fucking thing that these people say. I mean, I cannot believe what people say about everything that is posted on social media. And these are all supposedly deer hunters. That drives me nuts that we should all be working together. We're all in the same community. Listen, if we continue to tear ourselves apart, we are not going to have this. in our future generations. Like, this shit is going to go away if we keep bickering about every fucking thing. You know, like you mentioned before, posting a picture of a buck that was eaten by coyotes. If I post that picture right now, the first 100 comments are going to be, well, you're a slob hunter. You didn't go and look for that deer. You didn't even try. Really? You think the guy that shot that deer with an arrow, and that, you know, you don't think he spent 6 days looking for that buck and somebody else found it 200 freaking yards away on another property? Like the stupid shit that you see over and over and over, and the freaking ignorance on the social media is mind-blowing. I swear to God that most of the population of deer hunters are sitting in their mother's basement just waiting for somebody to post something on one of the pages that they follow just so that they can tear it apart and call them names. It is unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. But I think that gets back to the root point. You know, as much as I don't necessarily agree with what Matt Rinella's point was in his article, it's also that too. It's like you're making that point, Dallas, about these Facebook groups. Facebook is definitely has more interaction and more stuff like that, but it is unbelievable the amount of content that gets put out every single day in these, like in the New York Hunters Only group. It's like, who in the God name has that much time to keep track of all this shit? And it's the same people posting all the time. I got a question. What should I do? Where should I? It's like, this is really the place you're going to go to ask that question.
You know, the posts that I really like are the ones that guys will post like a picture and be like, "Is my hunt ruined?" And the deer's laying there dead.
All right. That's become well, that's the thing though too. It's a big fucking joke. So everybody's like, you know, now they got to join in on that. So it's like, you know, that guy was just this week. He's like, could you stop posting that "is my hunt ruined" shit? Else I'm gonna take you off of this. Like, come on, we're trying to be. We should be a community here. I can't believe how fucked up people are. I mean,
I think that's the shit that drives me away from it. Like, this hunting season, I have literally not been on Facebook or Instagram.
Look at this. All right, listen to this. I'm talking to you guys right this second. I just had a banner post come up across my screen for the Deer Hunter podcast. Steve Rinella versus Matt Rinella is available.
Oh, so he did one on it. Nice.
Yeah. So, but this is just, it's just unfortunate because the social media thing is, obviously, we all know about it. It reaches everyone. So it's a great way to get information and community and everything like that. But just the negativity of it all is just incredible. I can't fathom what makes people wake up every day and just be like, well, I got to go on the New York State Hunters Only group and just start tearing people apart for, you know, one of my favorite ones is when people kill a deer with a gun and they put the gun across the deer and it's kind of pointed in their direction. And there's got to be 150 people on every one of them being like, you know, your gun barrel is pointed at you. That's not safe. Motherfucker, do you think he didn't unload that gun before he pointed it at himself and laid it across? I'm sure 1 out of a million didn't unload the gun first, but do you need to look back through the comments? 700 people before you made the same fucking comment. Do you really need to make the same comment? The gun is most likely unloaded. And even if it's not, you know what? He's only going to learn that lesson one time. Let him learn it. Jesus Christ.
Man, what really grinds your gears, Dallas? God damn, this segment's
gonna
be good.
I'm telling you, Billy, I'm just getting started on this shit.
I know. Well, and like that was one of the things that I had written down for the segment of what grinds my gears. And Jimbo's not aware, but Dallas wants to do like a segment like every once in a while where we just talk about shit that just bothers us that we see. And this clearly has hit a string.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Dallas. But that back when Dallas brought that up to me, it was about the time when that Sydney Wells, she shot that big buck. And it was
next
really,
shots up. That's it.
Really, really odd how the picture of her buck was, she only posted 2 different angles and it got like 70, 80,000 likes on these pictures. And neck up, like no full body, no nothing, like weird angles of the deer. And like, I look at that and I'm like, well, what is, like, okay, whatever, beautiful deer. I'm not going to negative comment on it. I didn't like it, nothing. I just saw the picture. I was curious because I'd heard about it. But
I
then
actually
you see-
told you about that one.
Oh, you told me about it.
Yes, because I was like, dude, did you see that? I'm like, something fishy.
So that in all reality, it was either.
So
it
I
was either
spent 3 hours commenting on it in my mother's basement.
So it was
Ma,
either. It was
the
either.
meatloaf.
Yeah. It was either a bad shot or the coyotes got it or something, you know, like, and so like you take the adverse, you take 3 weeks later, Austin Chandler shoots that huge buck, posts a picture of what actually happened, what the deer looked like when he found it the next morning. He only left it overnight. The deer looked like it freaking got ripped apart by a pack of wolves, and he gets shredded for that. But yet the girl, who's a good looking girl and has 260 something thousand followers, gets almost 100,000 likes on something that's like, what's going on here? But like that's the shit that grinds my gears, because at least Austin told the whole story and said, here's the reality. I'm proud I still went and found my deer, and it's one of the best bucks he's ever shot. And that's I respect that. But like with that, I look at that as a hunter and say, you just shot a giant buck and you're posting kind of obscure pictures of it. Like what's the full story here? But you'll never know the full story because it would hurt her image. So she'll never tell you that. But that grinds my gears. But I think in the same breath, you know, kind of coming back around on the whole social media thing, is that to me, you know, I've kind of gone through a mass purge, and I'm just unfollowing shit. We were following a lot of people with Pert Near Outdoors, and that's the main account I use. I don't really use my personal one much, and I just started unfollowing people because I don't need to see stuff that I don't like. And if it's something that gets me worked up and bothered, like it's not worth it being in my life. I don't need it there. And that's point number one. Point number two is, this is one I wanted to bring up with you, Dallas, when you're making the point about all the negative comments, is that, and I don't know if you've heard some of these different podcasts that Rogan's done, or if you watch that The Social Dilemma, but a lot of this shit is just, it's not even real people. It's just bots. Yeah. Like it's just people. It's just like these things that are programmed to comment and to just create interaction. That's all they are. And I think a lot of that shit, like, you know, let's go like Cole Beasley. He just tested positive for COVID on Monday, created a huge shit stir around the Bills because he's not vaccinated, whatever. And he stood his ground on that. And I respect him. I respect the hell out of him for it, because he stood his ground in his beliefs and he's not letting somebody plow over him. So he puts out an Instagram post explaining his thoughts on it. And I mean, shitload of comments. And I go in, I like click on a couple of the comments, just kind of see what people are saying. And there's like, I clicked on several of the people that were like actively commenting. You go to their profiles, they've never posted anything. They have like 3 or 4 followers and they follow like 80 people. And they're like, it's not a real person. That's a fake account that is literally just trolling and just keeping the conversation and negativity going. It's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, like everybody spends all their time looking at this shit, and half of it's not even real. Like it's not even real people. So
you know,
like,
who doesn't cause problems?
Who?
Squirrels hopping around the woods, just getting their nut.
Yeah,
I watch them
all. Nuts to get. There's no nuts
every time. Every time I'm in the woods, I just see squirrels wandering. And I talk to them, and they don't say anything back, but it's fine.
They pick crumbs out of your beard.
Yeah.
Well, you know, all this shit that I'm talking about, and it's just, there's a million times where I'm like, why am I even on Facebook? Like, I'm not even on any of the other stuff, but just Facebook. But it's like, every time I think that I should just leave, it's like, well, that's how I keep in contact with, you know, a lot of my family and friends and people that I don't get to see and stuff. So it's like, to me, it's worth having, but I'll almost never post anything. And every time I do post anything, I almost instantly regret it, because you'll get like the dumbest comments or no reaction to something that's actually important. You know, sometimes I put shit out there that I'm like, you know, I'll share an article or something that happened, and I'm like, this is significant, like this is impactful to my life, and you'll have like 7 likes and 1 comment on it. It's like, okay, so that didn't mean anything. It's like, you know, I want to know, I want to be privy to what's going on, you know, and I think that's part of the reason why I'm on Facebook. But it's like, just to see the shit that goes on every fucking day is unbelievable, you know. And so we were talking about some of this stuff last week with the holiday hunt conversation. It's like, And I did get some benefit from some of the comments that I read. Like, in the last couple of months, I have, in person and online, I've actually heard a lot of opinions that actually meant something to me, and that's important to me, to get that feedback and to listen to people say things that I don't necessarily agree with, but it makes you think. That's good, but then you cross over into the negativity and the ignorance and the stupidity, and it's like, yeah, I guess you have to take it all. You have to take it all in and sort it out. But I don't know. It's obviously everyone knows this everyone's had this thought or this conversation. It's not just about deer hunting. Obviously it's about everything in the world. Politics is even worse. But so, like I said before, sometimes I think deer hunters are even worse than politicians in this.
Right up there.
Talk, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. But for people that aren't in tune with all of this stuff, like, you need to be aware of the fact that a lot of the stuff that you see is not real. And a lot of the stuff that you see is it's curated to what you want to see. And I'm not ignorant to I'm not ignorant's not the right word. I'm not the I'm ignorant. But I'm not like immune from that. Like, I'm gonna, like, I listen to who I listen to. I watch what I watch. Like, I know what I want to know is what I hear when I'm following this stuff. But still, there's a lot of stuff out there that is not right. And I think people need to start using their common sense and their brain and start listening to what is being said and what's being done in all walks of life. But, this is a hunting podcast. We're talking about hunting issues. Just think about stuff, and if things don't seem right to you, then don't do them. If you don't like what somebody's saying, then don't follow them. It's not hard, and your life will be a lot better for that if you kind of start blocking some of the noise that's bringing negativity into your life or something that you don't like. You're going to be in a much better place. And heading into a new year, that's a good thing to do for yourself, is to try to clean up the noise and not be so distracted. And if you haven't watched that Social Dilemma on Netflix, you need to put that on your freaking checklist of things you got to do in the near future, because it opened my eyes, opened my wife's eyes to a lot. And we turned a lot of things off. We deactivated a lot of notifications because Google and Facebook and all of those things, like, they have got you by the balls, and they are leading you around to whatever they want you to see and whatever they want you to buy and whatever they want you to do with your phone. They can do it. They can control it. And you start paying attention to that stuff, and it's like, it's freaking creepy. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said before about how you used to follow. You followed a lot of things with Pert Near Outdoors, and then you sorted them out. But that's a good thing, Follow a lot of different people and a lot of different influences, and then figure out which one of them are legit and which ones are bullshit, and then sort them out. And keep the things in your life that are actually, important.
Yep.
There's a lot of things in your life that matter, but there's a lot more that don't. And figure out how to filter out those things into what's important.
Yeah, block the bad, take in the good. That's what you got to do.
But you got to figure that out, though. You got to figure out what's.
Yeah, and that will change over time as you grow, as your priorities in life changes. Those things become different, and I think we're in a time right now where you need to be aware of this stuff, and that's where I'm at.
The world's constantly changing.
Need to put it down sometimes and go live your life.
You do, but you also can't live under a rock, or you're just going to get rolled over too, Jim. So.
No, I agree with that, but this is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
you go spend a day in the woods like me and you did without our phones. I mean, that is mind clearing.
Oh, for sure.
And it doesn't need to be hunting. It can be hiking. It can be camping. It can be, during the summer, kayaking, boating, whatever. Just disconnect sometimes is good.
Absolutely.
And that's the beauty of the outdoors. It really is. I mean, that's number one you get. You don't, there's not a lot of things in life you can do. And that for me, that's running, like, I'm coming into the time of year where I start running a lot, and like those 2-3 hours, or an hour and a half, 2 hours a day when I run, like, that's my time. Like, that's my time to turn things off and just run. And people got to find something like that. I feel bad for people that don't have those things in their lives. And, it's something that I've talked a lot with my wife about. She sees what we do. I know deer season's a freaking grind on marriages because, you know, we have something that we are just relentlessly passionate about, and our wives most often don't have that. And even when you tell them to go find something, they don't want to go find something. They just want to tell you that you shouldn't enjoy your thing. And, you know, it's tough. Every guy I've talked to is dealing with the same challenges right now. And, you know, we've got a whole nother week of hunting left. So that's a challenge in itself, but
Strap in, ladies.
strap in. Like you said to Danny tonight, you know, you better get real comfortable because you're going to be in that doghouse for a while. What'd you say? You got to
Quit. He said he was trying to stay out of it, and I said, quit trying to stay out of it. Just get in it and get comfortable.
Bring a pillow and a blanket.
Yep.
Dallas has been there for 13 years. Well, we need to, is there anything else you guys got on that point?
Yeah, I just was reminded of a quote that I heard that I think is along the lines of what we've been talking about, but I think it's pretty impactful. But it's if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed. But if you do watch the news, you're misinformed. So it's like you said, if you were to drop all your social media and TV and everything around you, you wouldn't know what's going on, right? But when you do watch
balance,
but when you do watch all that shit and read all that shit and listen to it, you're getting so much noise and so much bullshit that you have to filter through it all. You know, it's a tough line to walk.
It is. I got another one for you since we're on quotes. And this one, this is not an exact quote because I don't have it in front of me, but it's along the lines, and it goes perfectly with the whole discussion of social media and who you're following, who you're not following, is, you know, pay attention to what people are doing, not what they say they're doing. And that really, I heard that around sometime last winter, and that freaking hit me hard. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast here, but, you know, like I want to follow people and I want to, you know, aspire to drive change and to be an impactful person in our community and not just our local community, but in our deer hunting circles. You know, whitetail deer hunting is extremely important to our entire family. It's our identity. It's who we are. It's hunter. You know, we're hunters. And so like, I want to be somebody who's out there doing things to make it better, not somebody who's just taking and just saying that they're this great conservationist and, oh, I do this, I do that, but I don't do shit. Like, I want to be somebody who's actually out there, you know, whether it's us physically working on the land, whether it's us raising money for conservation organizations. That was cool. It was a very cool experience to be able to take that deer that I shot on Monday and donate it. I've been talking about wanting to do it, and I physically did it. I took it and donated it for the Venison Donation Coalition. Like, that's doing it. Like, that's out actually trying to, you know, do what you say you're going to do. So, like, there's a couple things there for people to think on, because that's important stuff. It's important to think about those things.
I'd have fed half of Western New York if I'd quit missing them.
Yeah, you would have.
No, you would have out of tags.
Nah.
You'd find a way.
I know where plenty of those are.
Yeah. Okay, we need to wrap this out we had some fun Q&A today on Instagram. I posted something up and we got some pretty funny questions here. So we're gonna start with them. The first, so I just put a poll up and I said, hey, any questions for us to answer tonight? Eric had 2 questions, both in regards to the Great American Harvey Whitetail Championship, and wanted to know what the overall count is as far as wins to, you know, Billy wins to Jimmy. So I don't know if we actually have an actual count because we really didn't start getting serious because I was never even in the competition until like I met Dallas, and then Dallas changed my life.
Yeah, the curses really fucked me on this one.
Yeah. They kept, I just remember every year at Christmas, you know, once I started getting into the family here, I was like, hey, am I finally a curse yet? And they're like, no, haven't shot enough deer. So it was like my yearly thing that when I sat down at Christmas dinner with Robert, Dallas, and Brian, I'd say, well, am I a Kirsch? And once I got to that 5-6 number, they started actually respecting me. So I think I've probably got 2 over the last 5 years. We've tied once. Didn't we tie last year?
We tied last year. You won the 2 years before. That might have been when we started doing it. I don't really know when we technically started doing it.
Yeah.
Because if we went technically back to when I started hunting, you'd be way in the hole.
We'll just say it's like 15-2.
Yeah,
15-2-1 right now. Does that sound about fair?
Yeah, 15-2 to 1-1.
15-2 to 1.
Throw the tie in there.
Well, no, that's the 1, Jim. That's the 2 is me, and then 1. That's what that is. So we'll say that's what it is. And then what does 1 get? That was the other question Eric had, was what does 1 get when they win? So what do we got for the prize that we've got moving forward here, Jim?
I think we need to get one of these belts, dude. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
We just hand the belt back and forth, you know?
We could do that. I was pretty excited about the whole deadhead thing that I found last year, but
you know, I don't know. I don't feel like that's that great. I think maybe if we went out on one of these big group hunts and me and you both shot the same deer, we could like Euro that one and hand it back and forth.
That would be funny.
But I feel like a belt would be pretty legit to just.
So I don't
hand
even
the
know
belt back and
if
forth.
Dallas know. Well, I do like the belt idea, and we should probably just do that.
Yeah.
Like the
Expense it out.
the wrestling belt. Yeah, we'll just put it on as a business expense. Put it on the W-9 or whatever they call those tax forms. Did you ever hear about that deadhead that I spotted last year driving down the road, Dallas? No, Dallas. Did Dallas leave? Oh, maybe he. Oh, Dallas.
Yeah.
Did you did you hear the story about the deadhead I found last year?
No.
I was driving down the road in Geneseo, from
I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So it was a long roundabout story, where I spotted this thing. I was on the phone with Jimmy, spotted it in like this, like, I don't know, what was that, like canary grass, like cattail.
Oh God, don't talk to me about canary grass.
I know, I'm getting you all fired up. We got a couple months till we got to worry about canary grass. And I spot this thing, and it's like dead in this like swampy area right in front of this dentist, this dental office. So I ended up going on Onyx, and I marked a waypoint, and I was telling Jimmy where it was, and we were gonna do covert operation after hours, but then decided against that because we're upstanding citizens.
That's just a hot spot for cops, and I went over there twice. And
we contacted the mayor of Titty City, and
after you got permission, legal permission.
No, I think whatever. I thought I contacted him first. This is a long time ago. This is almost a year ago, and so I ended up going to the dentist. And this is COVID times, so you can't go in. So I called from the parking lot and said, "Hi, my name's Billy. I drove by. I saw a dead deer in your swampy patch out front. Would it be okay if my brother came by after dark and got the head off the deer?" And she's like, "Well, hold on 1 second. I'll go ask the doctor." I'm like, "Okay." So she comes back and she goes, "That would be fine. Just make sure you come back after dark." We're like, "Okay." So Jimmy went and got it. It ended up being it was a pretty good 8-pointer. I don't know he's probably about 18 wide. Nice 8-point. I just seen his profile of his horns, laying sideways in the swamp there. But has he even fully decomposed the head, or
I think he got pretty well cleaned out. I think a couple of tips to the horns got chewed on by squirrels or mice, but
that's just character.
Yeah. No, I think he's about cleaned out, but that I don't know if anybody else has done it on here, but trying to cut the head off a deer that's been laying in a swamp for 3 weeks is
it's
kind of hard.
And it stinks.
Sounds bad.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, mind if I make some suggestions about the Harvey Whitetail Challenge?
I would love your input, Uncle Dallas.
Okay. As long as it doesn't include you joining it.
No.
Right,
well,
we're good then. Carry on.
There could be
a general. Harvey, is that what you're saying?
No, I was there when you called yourself Billy Kirsch. So
you were. That was a special moment.
That's actually how you got to join the club, when we're like, okay, he accidentally called himself a Kirsch.
Yeah.
So, anyways, your competition is highly flawed.
Okay.
Because it's based on body count. If I want to kill as many deer as I can, I'll shoot every short nose that comes through. Right?
Yeah.
So, I think there should be a point system.
Yeah, I'm out.
No.
I'm listening. You got my attention.
All right. I've not thought this through thoroughly. I'm just coming up with this right now. It's half-baked, vodka soaked. All right, but point system. An adult doe, 1 point. A 2-year-old buck, 2 points. A 3-year-old buck, 5 points. A 4-year-old plus buck, 10 points. A fawn, minus points.
I had a comment like that earlier this week. Yep.
So you can't just shoot a deer, put a tag on it, and call it a Harvey deer, because there has to be weight given to every deer shot.
I think that makes it a more legitimate.
Yeah,
by far, it makes
All
it
American contest.
Because what you guys are doing
complicated though. I mean, a body count's a body count. It is what it is.
No, what you guys right now are doing is a pheasant shoot. They're fucking launching them out of a fence, and you're shotgun them up. How
many did you get, Jimmy?
What's your point?
I'm calling you a hack right now.
Yeah.
But I'm confident that you guys are better than that. So I'm saying.
Well, I think it's kind of an unsaid thing. I mean, we're not just going out.
Kind of a hack, right? Like, I didn't mean to shoot that button buck the other day. I thought it was a nice deer.
Yeah, but right, but negative points for thinking that was a nice deer and killing it.
That'll be the last.
Seriously,
yeah, I know you're not wrong. I mean, it takes two to tango. So if Big Jim is scared to get into this ring with me, then I get it.
If I was you, I'd be scared because I'm the one killing bigger bucks every year.
I'm not as scared of nothing, Jim. I'm not as scared. I'll just start hunting your
spots. I kind of like the simplicity of it. I mean, neither of us are going ham on these deer just to try to beat one of another. I mean, we're putting it where it needs to be.
I don't know. Listening to you guys talk about it, I'm pretty sure. Well, at least from Billy's end, I've seen him in the past be like, "Oh, I got 3 more this weekend for the Harvey Whitetail Challenge." Like seriously, you guys want to do something? This is though. I like this because this is actually like. This could be a revolutionary type of deer contest right here. And it could be more than just the two of you guys. I mean, we could all be involved, but we could come up with a scoring system and try to determine, who's having the best season. It doesn't, it's just like anything else. It doesn't determine who's the best hunter. It determines who has the best season, the most successful season. I mean, put some points to it and make there be consequences for bad kills too. You know what I vote for here?
I'd say we do the Pert Near Outdoors Whitetail Challenge and use your system because I like your system.
Yeah.
But this is between me and Billy.
And
it's a
that
body
will never change, right?
And I don't want to get away from that here on social, because it's a social media platform. We're going to start changing things for the public and
and they're going to say we sold out and we're trying to corporatize shit. Yep.
Hey, but if you want to do that Pert Near Outdoors, I'm game. That's fun.
Yeah, something bigger, sure.
I'm serious that next fall I would really like to try to do like a doe contest, like a weekend doe contest. Biggest doe, like in archery. I think it'd be fun to like get a bunch of guys together and say, hey, let's see who can shoot the biggest doe this weekend.
I think you could do a really good, put on a good contest here in New York.
Don't make
that point system.
But I don't want it to be I would like it to be like, hey, let's get a bunch of guys together that want to go and try to hunt a new area, and let's go and see who can shoot the biggest doe in a weekend.
I don't know. I think that's incentivizing. It's like some of the things we've heard about the holiday hunt about, just get out there and shoot more deer and stuff like that. Like, let's make it a season-long thing and make it about quality over quantity. And it's not a biggest buck contest because you can still score points by shooting mature doe and things like that. But I don't know. There's more nuance to it, but I think there's something there. Like, I think there's a good contest. I mean, like if you pick a weekend, then everybody's going to be like, oh, I got to go out there and shoot the first doe that comes by me this weekend. Then they're getting outside of their like if you got standards and you're like, wow, now it's October 20th, so I got to shoot the first year and a half doe that comes by me that I wouldn't normally shoot. You don't want that. You want
Right.
people to shoot the highest quality deer, strive for the best. Like,
Well, to your point, you're not wrong in the fact, like, when we've done, we haven't done it in a couple of years now, but we always had done the biggest doe contest with our clan out here, and I love that. Like, that was a blast, and we were all out there trying to find the biggest doe we could find, and
but
that
it
was
was a season-long contest too.
it was
so you-
yeah, it was season long, right? Archery had a bracket, and so did gun, and that was a lot of fun. I always enjoyed that.
I like coming up with a point system.
He's really stuck on this, Jim. I think we're gonna have a hard time moving
I
off.
don't think it's with me here.
I'm looking for. Well, I'm not
I
disagreeing with
support
you.
the system, just not for our hunt.
Not for us.
No.
Okay. Well,
All right.
maybe-
Well, my original point was, like, if you have incentive to be like, oh my God, I got to go out there this weekend and beat my brother in the late season, right? And start shooting everything when it's anytime a competition comes down to Brown is down, I'm out. I don't
Dallas
like it.
is out. Dallas isn't supporting me anymore. Okay. I
always
see where
want-
this is going. This is
I
getting
always want to
uncomfortable.
be.
This is like a
I-
Matt Ranella, Steve Ranella thing here. This is
Oh.
uncomfortable.
No, I'm with you on the point that, like, here's what I always say is, like, I'm in on the fact that any deer that somebody kills that makes them happy, that they're satisfied with, I'm supportive of it. I'm happy for that person. But as soon as if you go outside of, I needed to kill a deer to fill my freezer, feed my family, or just, whatever makes you happy. But if what makes you happy is filling a tag so that you can put one on your brother, I don't know. I know you guys are going to put it in the freezer and eat it, so I'm not disparaging that fact. It's not like you guys are shooting a deer and throwing them in the ditch to say you got one, but
I think that's why we always end up at 5 or 6, because we fill our freezer, we taper off, we're shooting the deer we want to shoot. It's just kind of a joke back and forth to see who's at. And I would never shoot a deer if I didn't have a plan for it, or if it was. I'm also very much like property oriented. If it's a property that I don't think a deer should be coming off of, I'm not going to shoot it off of that property. I'll go over to another property where somebody wants them gone.
Yeah.
And where there's a plentiful amount of them, so it's definitely not just we're going to go out and whack and stack and see who can win. Because if it was that way and I hit every deer I shot at, I'd kill 12 a year,
All right. Yeah. No, I didn't mean to. I might have went a little too far there towards the direction of, like, I don't mean to accuse you guys, because I know that.
I mean, Jim, it kind of feels like we're being attacked right now. That's what it's.
Yeah.
No, what I'm
he's
saying,
attacking us on our own goddamn podcast.
We're losing Uncle Dallas. So it sounds like he's breaking up.
no, I'm actually gonna. I'm saying sometimes when you're talking about it, that's
how
across.
it comes off.
That comes across as if you're making it sound that way. So that's just a thought of being like, hey, just try to make it sound like it's not coming across that way, because I know you guys aren't actually that way, but it's just sometimes as a listener you might think like, okay, these guys are just fucking killing everything that comes across just to say that they killed more than their brother, but so anyways.
This is why I don't post stuff. People on social media just get butthurt.
Yeah, no, I think Dallas, I appreciate your insight on that, because it's a good point. And there's a lot of people listening that don't know the backstory of this and don't know why Jimmy and I, we like to have our little brotherly contest. And it's so true. I mean, it's like Jimmy said, I wouldn't have shot. I'm not thrilled that I killed a button buck the other day, but the deed was done. Like, you can't take that back. I killed that deer. But, I was out hunting for a doe, and the shot presented itself, thought it was a decent doe, you shoot it. And but those that can come off the wrong way. Like, I post a picture of that and it's like, wow, that looks like a little deer. And it's like, that's a freaking little deer. And people are like, wow, this guy's out there just whacking everything he freaking sees. So no, your point's very valid, Dallas. And, I think if, we got to think about that too. But in the end, I'm also not going to apologize for filling the tags that the state gave me that I can go out and fill.
Right.
I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm utilizing the tags I have. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just busting your balls, Dale's giving you a hard time. I do agree with you. This has just been a fun thing where
Yeah.
it's not about like points or doing this or that. It's just fun to kind of heckle each other back and forth on where we're at for the year.
I get it. I guess we're all kind of coming to an agreement on this point after after a half hour of talking about it.
yeah.
It's-
Okay,
you know,
next one. Oh well, what do you got?
no, but I was just gonna say, tag it and bag it. Like, you can't take it back. Once you pull the trigger, it's your responsibility. Whatever it is, if it's a button buck, if it's a yearling buck, it's whatever. Maybe it wasn't a good kill, but tag it, bag it, put it in your freezer, right? All right,
Yep.
Continue on.
Feed him.
Feed
The
'em.
next one was from Brad Semino, and he says, "Why is Billy the second best looking Harvey brother on the staff?" And my answer to that, I replied to his immediately because I thought it was pretty funny. It's the size of my nose. I'm a pretty ugly bastard. So
The fact that you're balding doesn't help that. It's like makes it longer almost.
yeah, and I got little ears, which I have those covered up with these big headphones so that's not noticeable. But thank you, Brad, for pointing out my inadequacies as a man. I appreciate it. And then Big Jim, he said, "Is that a yipper?" That was the question he had. And yes, we've covered that
We've
well
covered
here.
that well.
Yep. Jimmy or Zaylor commented and said, "Loser of the Whitetail Challenge should have to sit in the Pertinier booth at the ATA show in a thong." So first off, we would have to go to ATA, which we're not doing because we're not cool enough to do that. And number two, no one would want to see that. That wouldn't be good. Serious question here from Mr. Runskevich, Timmy Tom down in Pennsylvania. He says, "Who's the better deer butcher, Billy or Jimmy?"
I gotta say, you've done a lot on your own here the last couple of years.
Yeah, thank you for.
But I've
tipping my
also
hat.
been doing it for 15 plus in the garage with you guys.
So have I. So don't.
No, you
say it.
haven't.
What do you mean
You
I
were
haven't?
shopping with mom and playing sports and
Not on cutting nights. I was
Jesus
out.
Christ, I don't even know if you ever went across the Apprentice Burger table. You know,
Hell yeah, I did. I went from rib cage to front shoulders.
I don't remember it. I must have missed all that.
You're still on the Apprentice Burgerman. You're not even
No.
out of that world
I had
yet.
to skin one the other day. I had to do steaks and roasts, stew meat the other day.
Oh my god, I don't know how you do it. I really
Yeah.
don't.
I'm a man of all trades, Bill, but you know,
The answer to your question, Mr. Runskevich, is Slick Willie here is by far the meat king of
I
the
don't know if
Harvey
I'd run on the by far, but I'll give it to you.
by far, night and day. Then the last comment we had was not a comment but a statement, and that was a thank you to Big Jim for sharing a spot with Mr. Nate Kennedy to help. It was Mike Fitzsimmons. He got out. Sounds like out for his first deer hunt, and he went with Nate Kennedy on a spot that Jimbo gave him a little intel on. So good on you, Jimbo, for sharing a spot that's now going to get blown up. Great.
Yeah, he'll take all of BHA there and just blow it right out of the water.
All right. Yeah,
I told him if he wanted to come back in the spring and do some hiking with me during Turkey Scout, and I'll take him around and show him some other stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And in the end, that's what it's all about. But respect the man and don't take. I think this is etiquette that needs to be talked about. Is that if somebody takes you to their hunting spot, don't go back there when they're not there with someone else and show somebody else that hunting spot, and then start this train of people who are just going to pound that spot until there's nothing left. Like what I have in a roundabout way done with all of my cousins and my uncles have now taken over my hunting spot, and they are in there just all the time up and down that hill, just pounding the hell out of it. So I'm guilty of it too. And I'm sure talking about the stuff on this podcast doesn't help either, but
sounds like you're calling your own family out here.
I am freaking
shitting on your spot.
They're going up there. They're going up there to do some drives this weekend. It's like, what the shit? That's the spot that I put all that work into, but whatever. I'll just go find something else, and I will, and I have. So that's all right. I'll just go the other way. I'll just drive an hour the other way instead of driving.
You all right now, Bill? You got that out?
I feel better. I feel better now that I put my family on the carpet. Uncle Chris, Sean, you are on blast.
What about Jeff? You're gonna leave Jeff out of this?
Well, yeah, Jeff's a problem too, and and he's really, that kid's only been hunting. You met Jeff last year, Dallas. We went on Jeff's big adventure there last day of muzzleloader season, and I mean, he's only been hunting for 2 years now, and he's a freaking killer. The kid's got, I think he shot 10 deer in 2 years.
10 deer in one finger, right?
10 deer in one finger. That's right. Yeah, he freaking cut his finger wicked that day when he was trying to get the primer out of the muzzle loader using a knife, prying the primer and sliced his finger bad. But he hunted on and he shot 2 more deer that day. It was pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, hats off to Jonesy for I was talking to our buddy Zach Eason on the phone yesterday because Zach might hook up with us on Monday, but Zach's a big fly fishing guide up in Oswego area, and he was asking if Jonesy's been out fishing at all. And I go, dude, I don't know if Jeff has thought about fishing for more than 10 minutes since I introduced him to deer hunting, because he is like full on addicted to chasing whitetails around. So
good.
Yeah, it makes me happy to see that. So I don't, and all joking aside, I don't care that people are in there enjoying that area. I love that area, but I've hunted it for 4 years and have shot a bunch of deer in there. And now I'm like, the place I went on Monday, that area has thousands of acres of public land that doesn't seem to be getting a ton of hunting pressure. So I'm really excited to venture those areas and try to find some new adventure because it's out there.
I'll show the boys where it's at on the map while we're over there cutting next week.
Yeah, why won't you? Why won't you just do that? That'd be great, Jim. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, well, we're going on 2 hours. Look at that. So that was all of the stuff that I had for tonight. You guys got anything in closing?
No? Strap in.
Crickets. Yeah. It's going to come down to the Finnish Great American Harvey Whitetail Contest. We're going to shoot everything that moves next week. Just for Uncle Dallas.
I'm going to tag Dallas and every single one of them I put down.
Yeah, it's been a fun year. I'm not sure that we may do another show next week. I don't know. We'll kind of go with the flow, but if we don't get another one out, I appreciate the hell out of you guys, Dallas and Jimmy and Zaylor, and I could name a ton of people that have helped us this year with the podcast, but you two have been very consistent on here with me, and it means a lot to have you guys supporting myself and supporting the podcast to help it grow, and then everybody out there listening. Bullhorn has been really fun to start using this app, and we got some listeners on here tonight, which is cool to get some listeners back on live, and I hope to do more with this in the new year once we get some more time to learn the system and try to figure out how. I see they got a couple new functions where I can actually share it when we go live onto Facebook, so that should really help getting people tuned in so that people can tune in on Facebook as well. So we'll end up using that a little bit as a tool to get it out in front of more people. But it's been a great year. 2021 was a blur. It was busy as hell. It was fun. We've had a great hunting season, and I can't wait to see what next week brings in this new opportunity that we have. But I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year if we don't talk to you or see you. And it's not too late to get those Christmas gifts over at the Huntworks, right, Jim?
Mm-hmm. They're always working.
They're always working. Daniel and Tim have been on here all night long. So if you need something, go over to the Huntworks website. You can see what they got in inventory. Buy yourself something nice because your wife won't. So that's.
I will say the M60 is my most recommended portable that I've used so far from them.
Mm-hmm. And if you like missing does, buy a buck hut. You can miss them really comfortably out of a buck
hut. Can miss them out of anything.
Out of anything. Yeah.
Right.
Anything in closing, Dallas? You good?
Yeah, sounds like missing does is another negative point for the Harvey Whitetail channel.
Yeah, that isn't something we could add to the scoring system. Maybe I'll just leave that up to you to develop the program and
that would be interesting if you counted misses against you.
We're gonna develop a program here. We're gonna get something out of this Harvey Whitetail challenge here.
You'd have a whole bunch of not admitting that you're missing deer. On.
No, I didn't hunt this week. No, I never hunted.
Never fired my gun all season.
Nope, never. Don't even know what a gun is. Yeah, you should. We should, and then factor in number of hunts, because I think Jimmy just gets out way more than I do, and I don't think that's fair either. I think that's abuse of of his family is what I think it is. I think he's abusing his family. So
My wife would probably agree with you.
yeah, and I've been talking to her about it. So I think we really need to tone you back. Yep.
That's a good strategy for you.
Yeah,
to try to win this thing.
Yeah, reel them in a bit. Okay, well we're just rambling on here, so we'll wrap this thing up. Appreciate you all tuning in, all two of you, and in all seriousness, appreciate you all tuning in, and to all a good night.
Feed 'em.
Fade them.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.